The illusion of money. Most people spend their entire lives chasing money. They work for it. They worry about it. They measure success by how much of it they have. And yet, very few people truly understand what money actually is. Not where it comes from, not how it is created, and certainly not who controls it. This lack of understanding is not accidental. Modern money is designed to feel familiar, simple, and unquestionable. But behind that simplicity lies one of the most complex systems ever created by humans. To understand the modern world, you must first understand money. What is money really? At its core, money is not wealth. It is not value. It is not power. Money is a social agreement. It is a shared belief that something has value because everyone else agrees that it does. Throughout history, societies have used many forms of money: gold, silver, salt, shells, paper. But the form is never the point. The real function of money is simple. It allows strangers to cooperate. Money is a tool that makes trust scalable. Instead of bartering goods, we trade symbols. Instead of remembering favors, we record balances. Money is memory. From physical to abstract. For most of human history, money was physical. You could hold it, weigh it, count it. Gold coins represented value because gold itself was scarce, durable, and difficult to produce. But physical money had limitations. It was heavy, slow to move, easy to steal. As economies grew, money had to evolve. Paper money was introduced as a representation of value, not value itself. Originally, paper notes were claims on gold stored somewhere else. But over time, something important changed. The connection between money and physical reality began to weaken. The end of gold. In the 20th century, most countries abandoned the gold standard. Money was no longer tied to a physical commodity. Instead, money became fiat. Fiat money has value, not because it is backed by gold, but because governments declare it legal tender and people accept it. This shift was revolutionary. For the first time in history, money was no longer limited by nature. It was limited only by rules, institutions, and trust. Or at least, that's how it appeared. The digital illusion. Today, over 90% of all money does not exist physically. It is not printed. It is not minted. It is not stored in vaults. It exists as numbers on screens. When you check your bank account, you are not looking at money. You are looking at a record, a promise, an entry in a database that says someone, somewhere, owes you value. This is where the illusion begins. Because if money is just numbers, who decides how many numbers exist? The common belief. Most people believe money is created by governments, that central banks print money and distribute it into the economy. This belief feels logical. After all, we associate money with the state. But this belief is incomplete, and that gap in understanding hides the true nature of the system. The truth is more subtle. Governments do not create most of the money in circulation. Central banks do not create most of the money people use every day. In fact, the majority of modern money is created somewhere else entirely. It is created quietly, digitally, and legally. It is created inside the banking system. Why this matters? Understanding how money is created is not academic. It is not theoretical. It affects inflation, debt, housing prices, wages, financial crises. It shapes who gets rich and who struggles. And once you see the system clearly, you can never unsee it. A system built on belief. The modern financial system functions because people trust it. They trust that their money will be there tomorrow. They trust that banks are stable. They trust that the numbers on their screen represent real value. But trust alone is not enough. Behind that trust lies a structure. And that structure begins with one simple mechanism: credit, the gateway to creation. Credit is the foundation of modern money. It is the bridge between nothing and something. It is the mechanism through which new money enters existence. And it is here, not in government printing presses, that the true creation of money takes place. But to understand credit, we must first understand banks. Not as buildings, not as brands, but as machines. Machines designed to create money. What comes next? In the next part of this documentary, we will explore how banks actually function. We will break down what happens when a loan is issued, why deposits do not come first, and how money is created with a few keystrokes. This is not conspiracy, this is accounting. And once you understand it, the financial world will look very different. How banks create money. To understand how modern money is created, we must stop thinking about banks as places that store money. Banks are not vaults, they are not safes, and they do not simply take deposits and lend them out. That idea is one of the most persistent myths in finance. And it's wrong. The traditional story. The traditional story goes like this. People deposit money into banks. Banks keep some of that money in reserve. Then they lend the rest to borrowers. According to this story, banks are intermediaries. They move existing money from savers to borrowers. This explanation feels intuitive, it feels responsible, and it feels safe. But it does not describe how modern banking actually works. What really happens when a loan is created? When a bank issues a loan, it does not take money from someone else's account. Instead, the bank creates new money. This is not metaphorical, it is literal. The moment a loan is approved, the bank creates a new deposit in the borrower's account. That deposit did not exist before. It was not transferred from another customer. It was created out of nothing, with a few keystrokes. The accounting reality. On the bank's balance sheet, two things happen simultaneously. The loan appears as an asset. The deposit appears as a liability. The bank gains an asset because the borrower now owes money. The bank gains a liability because it owes the deposit to the borrower. No cash moves. No vault is opened. No money is taken from anywhere else. Money is created through accounting. Why this is legal? This process is not a loophole. It is not hidden. It is not secret. It is the foundation of modern banking. Central banks themselves openly acknowledge this mechanism. Banks are licensed to create money through lending because the system depends on credit expansion to function. Without it, modern economies would freeze. Deposits come after loans. This is one of the most counterintuitive truths in finance. Loans create deposits, not the other way around. Banks do not wait for deposits to lend. They lend first, and reserves are managed later. If a bank needs reserves, it can borrow from other banks, borrow from the central bank, or attract deposits afterward. The system is flexible by design. The role of central banks. Central banks do not control money creation directly. They influence it. They set interest rates. They provide liquidity. They act as lenders of last resort. But they do not decide which loans are made. Commercial banks do. Every mortgage, every business loan, every credit card, each one creates new money. Why debt is essential. In the modern system, money and debt are inseparable. Every dollar created is matched by a dollar of debt. This means something profound. If all debt were repaid at once, most money would disappear. The system requires continuous borrowing to survive. Growth is not optional, it is mandatory. The incentives of the system. Banks are profit-driven institutions. They create money by lending, and they earn interest on that money. This creates powerful incentives. To expand credit, to push loans, to increase leverage, especially during good economic times. This is why credit booms happen, and why they always end the same way. The cycle of expansion. When times are good, banks lend more, money supply expands, asset prices rise, people feel wealthier, confidence increases, more loans are taken. This creates a feedback loop, but the system has a limit. What happens when credit stops growing? When confidence breaks, lending slows, defaults rise, money creation stops. And because money is debt, the system contracts. This is how financial crises begin, not because money disappears, but because credit does. The fragility beneath the surface. From the outside, the system looks stable. Balances update instantly. Payments clear in seconds. Everything feels solid. But underneath, the system is highly leveraged. It depends on trust, continuous growth, and confidence. Remove any one of these, and the machine begins to shake. Why most people never learn this? This reality is not taught in schools. It is rarely discussed openly, not because it is secret, but because it is uncomfortable. Understanding money creation forces us to confront systemic risk, inequality, and fragility. It challenges the idea that money is neutral. It is not. What comes next? Now that we understand how money is created, we must examine the consequences. What does this system do to prices, to wages, to wealth distribution? In the next part, we will explore debt, inflation, and why money loses value over time. This is where the effects become personal. at this system means for you. Understanding how money is created changes something fundamental. It does not make you rich overnight. It does not give you secret shortcuts, but it removes illusions. And removing illusions is the first step toward clarity. Why most people feel stuck? Many people blame themselves. They believe they did not work hard enough. They made the wrong choices. They missed opportunities. But in reality, they are navigating a system they were never taught to understand. A system where money loses value over time. Debt is normalized, and risk is quietly transferred downward. Feeling stuck is not a personal failure. It is a predictable outcome. The difference between income and position. In a debt-based system, income matters, but position matters more. Where you stand in relation to debt, assets, inflation, and time determines your outcome. Those who understand the system do not fight it blindly. They adapt. Why financial education is rare. If everyone fully understood money creation, the system would become harder to manage. Expectations would change. Demands would increase. Compliance would decrease. This is why financial education is often simplified, fragmented, or delayed. Complexity protects power. What you can control, you cannot control. Central banks, interest rate cycles, global debt. But you can control your exposure, your decisions, your understanding. Awareness does not eliminate risk. It allows you to choose it consciously. Debt is a tool, not a rule. Debt itself is not evil. Used strategically, it can accelerate opportunity. But used unconsciously, it becomes a trap. The difference is not intelligence. It is intention. Why time is the real currency. Money comes and goes. Time does not. The system rewards those who understand how time interacts with money. Compounding, inflation, long-term positioning. Short-term thinking is expensive. Long-term clarity is rare. The quiet advantage. The greatest advantage is not hidden information. It is calm decision-making in a system designed to create urgency. When you understand how money works, fear loses power, panic decreases. 1. Patience increases. This alone changes outcomes. You are inside the system. Participation is mandatory, but blindness is optional. You do not need to reject the system. You need to understand it. The final perspective. Banks are not villains, and debt is not a moral failure. This system was built to scale civilization, but scaling has consequences, and those consequences are unevenly distributed. The real divide. The true divide in modern society is not between rich and poor. It's between those who understand how money is created and those who don't. Closing words. If this documentary changed how you see money, it has done its job. Understanding does not guarantee success, but ignorance guarantees vulnerability.